Okay, hi everybody. It's a little dark in here, but that's natural light. I'm Dr. Garrett Smith of nutritionrestored.com, and today we're going to be going over hydration issues, how much fluids you should drink, and other ways of balancing your body or potentially messing up your body following the standard health nut advice out there. So anyway, again, I'm Dr. Garrett Smith. If you want to get a hold of me after you see how we work with just the idea of fluids in your body, think of how much more else we do with other things. So, nutritionrestored.com, my office number 520-577-6888. Julie, my lovely office manager, can be reached at admin@nutritionrestored.com. And that's about good on that. Now, as I always say at the start and end, I am a doctor. If you are not a client or a patient of mine, I am not your doctor. So if you decide to take action on anything you hear on this, I'm not telling you to do anything. You're an adult. You're making your own decisions. You can handle it. Not my fault. So, let's head into it. Oh, where to begin? This is going to go a little all over the place because it's a huge topic. Matt Stone has written several books on hydration, concentration, dilution, and I'm going to kind of give my not overly simplified, but my simplified version of a lot of that stuff and how I found it to work in clients and what I've observed and other things like that. So don't be surprised if we jump around. And if you feel like I missed something, ask in the questions, ask in the comments, and we'll get into it. So, the first thing you have to realize, one of the things I like to do with health is I like to think of systems like, I do a lot of analogies of the human body to a car. One of the analogies I'm going to do today is your blood is like a soup. And you want the soup to taste right, right? You want you want your soup to be correct. That is how you will feel the best. Very simple. You know, you want in a car, it's got to have the right mixture of gas and oil and air for the combustion and everything to work. Your body's the same way, except we're more like a soup. The three main ingredients of the soup needs to be, think of these: water, sugar, because that's the way it is in your blood. It's not starch in your blood, it's sugar, and salt. The keto people, there's the big keto craze right now, and the keto people will be like, you don't need sugar. And here's the thing I always say to keto people. I say, what happens when you run out of ketones in your blood? Nothing happens when you run out of ketones. What happens when you run out of blood glucose? You're dead. Do we need blood sugar? Yeah. Hey. Ketosis is a nice idea, but it's not sustainable, it's not realistic, and it doesn't work because it'll give everybody iron overload and eventually it'll ruin their health that way. So don't fall for the keto fad. And just think, if you didn't have all these processed fats and meat, you could never eat it that way. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. I'll get into all that later. If you've never read Matt Stone's article called The Catecholamine Honeymoon on 180 Degree Health, you should go read that one. But that's a little different topic. If you ever want to read any of Matt Stone's stuff, I'm going to be helping out my clients on our Google Drive folder, where I have all sorts of documents available with some other info from Matt Stone that he's written about it. But today we're going to talk, this is going to be my distillation of these ideas. So, the blood soup, back to the blood soup. Proper soup needs the right amount of water, needs the right amount of sugar, needs the right amount of salt. So those are the things we're going to talk about. Now, for those of you who have bought into the idea, or in the past possibly, or even now, that you should be drinking tons of water every day, and you should be peeing clear all the time. And maybe you're tired. Maybe you're tired of going to the bathroom. And maybe you're wondering, do you really have to drink all of this water? First, if you've been in veterinary medicine, You know a vet, ask them what they think of an animal like a dog that is peeing clear. They will tell you that that dog has something wrong with it. There is a disease process going on because dogs don't drink so much water on purpose that they pee clear. That should be your first giveaway that the peeing clear is a problem. So, next, peeing all the time is just not, it's not fun and it's not natural and you shouldn't be doing it. Clear pee simply means, we'll get to this later, but it's your body is saying, I've got too much water in me, I need to get rid of water. Because intuitively, if I ask you or a child, what does pee look like? Do they say it's clear? Or do they say it's yellow? Yellow snow, that idea. Don't eat yellow snow. Okay, pee is yellow. Should be yellow. Some form of yellow. Almost clear or just off of clear, where it's just the teeniest bit yellow, that is too diluted. Your body is trying to dump water. We'll get into why that is in a second. Like I said, I'm going to jump around because this is a big topic. But back to the blood soup. For you to feel your best, you want the right concentration of water, sugar, and salt in your blood. This is what makes the soup right. Now, an example that people will understand from their kitchen. If you are making soup and you add a large glass of water to that soup, what have you just done? You have ruined the soup. The soup would not taste good. You can do the same thing to your soup, your blood soup, by drinking too much water. So you add too much water to the soup, you now don't have enough sugar, and you don't have enough salt. And your body will then start asking you for those things. We'll get to that later. Back to the soup. If you had added too much water to that soup on the stove, you are able to get rid of the water in there. How? If you've heard of the term reduction or reducing it, you would simply cook off the water because only water comes off of the soup when you boil it, when you simmer it or cook it. So, your body does the same thing. What's the signal your body is trying to cook off water from your blood soup to make it thicker again or tastier, have more stuff in it? Your body will pee clear. That is your body's way of boiling off water from your system. You pee it out as clear. If you are peeing clear, you should be taking the hint your body is dumping excess water. Not pee, water. Okay, very simple. Clear pee, your soup is bad for whatever reason. It is too diluted and your body's dumping it. So, okay, so let's get into then people want to get into how much fluids should I drink? I can't tell you that. This is why you have to look at your pee, but we'll get to that too. What are the signs that you're drinking too much water? Common signs. Peeing clear. Feeling there's blood sugar issues at stake here too, which means there's calcium, magnesium, iron, and other things. But if you tend to drink a lot of fluids in the morning, like let's say you have coffee or a couple cups of coffee, and maybe you're trying to trim things down in your calorie intake, and you're not having any sugar in your coffee, and you're not having any cream in your coffee, and you're not having anything in your coffee. So your coffee is like herbal tea, right? There's not much in it. And you wonder why in the morning you get your hands get so cold and you feel like the caffeine's wearing off sooner than it should, and you're crashing around 10 a.m. Crashes from too much fluids happen 10 to noon often, not always, nothing's always, 10 to noon if people really overdrink in the morning. If fluid in your system, hydration kind of tends to accumulate over the day, it can build up. And then you eat lunch, so you fix the soup at lunchtime. So there's 10 to noon, Usually people are eating lunch around noon, 12:30, something like that. They add more sugar and salt to the soup. Things tend to stabilize, and then there's another crash time that can happen about 2 to 4 p.m. Then, if people drink often, one of the things that can cause a wake up in the middle of the night is too much fluids in the evening hours. So then there's the 2 to 4 a.m. wake up. Is this the only thing that can cause the 2 to 4 a.m. wake up? No, no. Gosh, no. Is it one of the things that could? 2 to 4 a.m. wake up is like a blood sugar drop. What was I telling you about one of the ways you could make your blood soup sugar go low? You could drink too much water, right? You can do too much of this thing and not enough of this thing, or both, and you can counter them in the other way. So so getting cold hands, cold feet, feeling tired, start yawning, knowing that you have an energy crash at the same time every day. I'm going to tell you, how do I know if that's too much fluids? Try halving your fluids. Cut your fluids in half in the hours before that. So if it's 10 to noon, try cutting your fluid intake in half before that. If it's 2 to 4, think of the time before 2 o'clock where you're having your fluid intake, and you watch for the crash. And if you don't crash when you cut your fluids, it means you were too diluted. So, very simple. That's the too much fluids. If you're running to the bathroom every half hour or hour, you got too much fluids going on in you. That's just, you should not be peeing every hour. Well, on that note, let's go into, people say, well, what should I be doing? Well, it's different for everybody, but here's the general guidelines that I did get these direct from Matt Stone, and I like them as guidelines. You should be peeing 4 to 6 times a day. Not 46. You might be doing that. 4 to 6 times a day total. Then your pee should be light yellow to yellow. Somewhere in there should be some yellow. It should not be clear, and it should not be dark on the darker yellow, very strong yellow, and smelly side. Okay? It's not water, and it's not super concentrated pee. It should be somewhere in the middle. That's it. Those are the guidelines. So does that take you? I mean, I live in Tucson, Arizona. It gets to, 108, 110 degrees here in the summer. If I spend a lot of time outside, what does my fluid intake need to do? It needs to go up. Then, it's now winter here and it's raining today. Am I going to need as much fluids today? Because there's humidity in the air, but it's cool. So I'm not going to be losing as much fluids, sweating and that stuff. I don't need as much. Oh, but I went to jiu-jitsu this morning where it was humid and warm in the room and we sweat a ton. So how does that affect things? This is why you cannot just do the insanity of eight 8-ounce glasses a day. Or you need to drink a gallon of water a day. You cannot just do that because your needs will change day in, day out. So now let's go into the overly concentrated side. What if your soup is getting too concentrated? How do you tell? Well, first would be the easy thing is the darker pee. Then you would have, the time people notice this is often at bedtime. So, well, obviously, you could be thirsty. True thirst. We'll get into true thirst versus a false thirst or a dry mouth, which these are very different. So, you could be thirsty. You could be peeing dark. You could be thirsty. But if these things happen before bed and you just get you're a bit on the too concentrated side. So too much stuff in your soup. Your soup is too thick. Happens after dinner. Oftentimes, because a lot of people, that's their biggest meal of the day. It might be really salty. It might have lots of carbs. And then if they don't drink water with their dinner, let's say, or they only drink a little bit of water, which is generally a good idea to not drink a ton of water with your meals. because it messes with the digestion. I think I went over that before, but anyway, don't throw a ton of water on top of your food, because then your stomach digestive soup is totally diluted and your stomach acid gets diluted and then it doesn't work as well. So don't do that either. But if you go to bed and you are laying there, now there's other things that can cause this problem too, so do not think that this is the end-all be-all answer to the question or the symptoms that I'm about to say. So if you go to bed and you are laying there and you can feel your heart just boom, 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 maybe going a little faster than usual, and you're just kind of like laying there awake. Oh wow, the sun's coming in over there. It's getting brighter in here. You're just laying there awake and you can usually feel your heart beating. It's not like palpitations where you're getting nervous. You can just feel it. It's like it feels like your heart's working too hard in there. Go have 8 ounces of water. Go lay back down. If you one of two things will happen if you did the right thing, if that's what's going on. And if you think back and you go, wow, I had like last night I had tacos. You know, it's a heavy dinner. And I mean, we've got refried beans in the tacos, there's ground beef, there's, you know, the taco shell, all that stuff. And I have quite a few tacos when I eat it because I like it. And I don't drink a lot of fluids with my dinner. And so I started noticing as I was going to bed, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling it's bedtime. I'm a little too awake. I know I had a big dinner. I know it was a salty dinner. Why in the world did Facebook Live just stop all of a sudden? I have no idea. Are they not seeing me moving here? Anyway. So, you go to bed, you lay down, the heart's pounding. Not super fast, but just you can feel it. It's like it's thick and you're awake. You go have 8 ounces of water. If you come back to bed and you feel like things are calming down, the heart, you feel it less, you feel like you're getting a bit more tired, that was the answer. Now, if that's not enough, I mean, you only have to wait like 5 or 10 minutes for the water to get into your system. If that's not enough, then you go and you drink another 8 ounces of water, another cup, not a glass, not a giant glass. Anyway, cup of water, that should be enough to put you down to sleep. That's how you know. Now let's get into, maybe you're drinking water. You're still on the camp of drinking tons of water because somebody said so or because of detox. And remember, drinking more water doesn't make you detox anymore. Then standing in the shower an extra half hour would make you cleaner. Just throwing water on things doesn't detox anything. Okay? So, let's say you're in the camp of you've been drinking tons of water and you pee all the time. But Dr. Smith, I'm still thirsty all day. I drink water all day. Why am I so thirsty? This doesn't make sense. Here's why. Hyponatremia. Low blood sodium. Do you remember how I said the blood soup? Water, sugar, salt. And when I say salt in this case, I'm talking about sodium. I'm not talking about mineral salts in general. I'm talking about sodium salt. Sodium chloride. Well, it's sodium when it's in your blood. So, one of the symptoms of hyponatremia, low blood sodium, is a dry mouth. Most people can't or don't know how to differentiate between a dry mouth and thirst. They are different. It would behoove you to try to figure out the difference, especially if you are drinking tons of water and still having a dry mouth. So, how do we fix this? They start drinking less water. If they're still feeling the dry mouth thing, what they can do to relieve their symptom, they rinse their mouth with water and spit it out. The dry mouth will be a little bit better. But you know, if they're peeing clear, if they're drinking tons of water and peeing clear all day, and they have a dry mouth, the problem is not lack of fluids. It's low blood sodium. If you have somebody who's doing all this, and maybe they latched on to the other health nut thing of, I don't salt my food. How would you get low blood sodium? Drink too much fluids. Don't salt your food. Hyponatremia, low blood sodium. Too diluted, not enough sodium to begin with. So what I tell these people often is I'll say, I want you to get them out of it. You start if it were me, and I were suggesting things to myself or a family member, I would suggest to them, I would say, I want you to salt your food more. Try to drink less water. And if you need to, rinse out your mouth with some water if you feel like your mouth is really dry. And I want you to get to a yellow. Well, first they would get to light yellow pee. And then they'll be somewhere in the yellow to light yellow. Very simple. Somebody who's not drinking enough water or fluids, let's go into that now. The people who say that coffee or alcohol doesn't count because it's got caffeine in it. First, they don't know this. The research on caffeine shows that as soon as your body has become acclimated to caffeine, you know, like the people lost the signal again or whatever it's doing. Anyway, they'll say, I can't drink, or I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Somebody remind me what I was on. So we talked about the people who are drinking too much water and not salting their food. That will cause low blood sodium. The people who are not drinking enough fluids. When they're having dark pee like all the time, they just need to drink more. Oh, we were going on the coffee and caffeine, and people who say that alcohol doesn't count and caffeine doesn't count and all these things don't count. That's ludicrous. Caffeine. Once your body has adapted to the caffeine, like, you know, when people are used to drinking caffeine and they don't feel normal if they don't drink their caffeine, they are caffeine adapted. Their body is not peeing any extra when they drink caffeine just because they drank caffeine. Those studies where they say that caffeine is a diuretic and it makes you pee more than you actually drink in, those were done on what are called caffeine naive people. They don't normally drink coffee or caffeine. So, they're not adapted. So it might be a slight diuretic in the first week, make you pee a little more out than you actually drank in. But long term, it's not. It's just not. And to think that somehow the water in coffee is not absorbed or it's not used. I know tons of people who they'll drink, black coffee and then they're peeing a ton and their pee is clear and they don't feel like they're getting much energy out of it because they just diluted their blood soup too much. So, don't do that. But people who don't drink enough, you just got to drink. You either have to get your fluids from food. I mean, you eat an orange. If you are eating fruits or vegetables or very high water content foods that are wet on the inside, like oranges, as an example. That's a pretty obvious example. Most plant foods are full of water because after they've been sitting around too long and they start losing their water, let's say you leave them in your fridge where it is dry, actively being dehumidified in your fridge, they dry out and they shrivel up. Plants and plant foods have tons of water in them. Usually these people who are peeing clear all the time are eating way too much, things like too much meat, too much grains. They don't drink water. They don't eat fruits and vegetables. Not a great recipe. Maybe you knew people, generations in the past who were able to get away with this. And it does kind of show that the whole overhydration, the excess drinking of water isn't that it doesn't save everybody from all their ills, and it may actually cause a lot of ills. So we are always after the Goldilocks effect. We don't want too much water, because too much water could kill you. We don't want too little water, because too little water could kill you. We want to find the middle area. The middle area for the person. Oh, sorry, there was peeing 4 to 6 times a day. Peeing light yellow to yellow. In the yellow spectrum. That's it. So, I'm going to go on here and look for, see if there's any questions. But that's the big thing. If you don't understand what I've said, Jacqueline, I see your comment there about when they're saying you use the salt shaker. If you're using the 50/50 salt that I recommend, you're doing better than they are than in potassium and all that stuff right away. Then we get into humans need salt. The thing I always tell people about salt, there's parts of the Bible where they talk about, paying people in salt. Wars have been fought over salt mines, and we give animals, this is the kicker, whenever you can find something in veterinary medicine, animals don't care about your latest health cult or health guru suggesting stuff. We give animals salt licks. We assume that animals can regulate. We give animals bowls of water and salt licks. We do that because we assume that they can regulate their water intake and their salt intake. You don't see, you don't see people doing a salt lick, or giving an animal a salt lick, and then the animal goes and licks it all day until they kill themselves. They don't do that because they say they lick it when they crave salt. Just like if you crave salt, you probably need it. And if you have been trained since childhood to not eat salt, you may have lost your salt taste. That is not a good thing. You should start salting your food. And what you will likely see is that you will get your salt taste back. One of the side effects of not eating enough sodium can be an excess of adrenaline, particularly at night. So if you are having trouble falling asleep, you may not be getting enough salt. So this is where, the thing I said about when you go to sleep and you feel like you're too amped up. This is where you have to use your brain. This is the one thing people who want to work with me as clients, my old email address and my old website was called Doctor as Teacher, because I don't just have the recipe for perfect health. No one does. And if they tell you they do, they are either that dumb to think they have it, or they're just selling you stuff. There is no magic answer for everybody. There is no health recipe that if you just find the magic health recipe and you follow that for the rest of your life, you'll be fine. Doesn't work that way. So, lost my train of thought again. I just go all over the place on this. Salt your food. Oh, sorry, Doctor as Teacher. I'm here to teach people, clients, patients, you through this video, how to figure these things out for yourself. Teach a man to fish kind of thing. I want to teach people how to fish. Not to have people reliant on, well, geez, I ended up in the hospital because I was dehydrated because I worked out in the sun on a roof all day and I had my 8-ounce glasses of water and I guess it wasn't enough. Okay? Or I'm going on a 3-hour hike this morning. And before I go, well, my pee was a nice color this morning. And I'm going to go on a 3-hour hike, but it's okay right now, so I'm not going to drink any water before I go. No. That's a bad idea because you're going to be sweating on the whole hike, so Just as so you know, you can preemptively have fluids if you know you're going to go sweat a bunch. Be prepared, kind of like you know you're going to go sweat a bunch, have some fluids. I don't mind, like when I go to jiu-jitsu in the morning, I'm going to sweat. I do not mind having some extra fluids before I go because I know I'm going to lose them. I sweat. Oh, by the way, if you have sweating problems, whether you sweat excessively crazy or you don't sweat, that's an iodine problem. And if there's an iodine problem, there's a vitamin C problem. And if there's a vitamin C problem and an iodine problem, there may be a selenium problem. And if we have an iodine problem, we may have an iron dysregulation problem. So, I hope you can see from all of that that my work is not simple. It is fairly complex. The human body is very complex. The human body has basic things that we need to do right. But when things have been messed up over time, when people, it's like when you drive a car off the lot, a new car off the lot. Once you've driven it a bit, it is never a new car again. And when doctors like to say that you're just getting old and that's why your health sucks, that's a cop-out. Except you're never going to be a new car again. And the thing about this is the more damage you do to that car along the way, you might not ever be able to undo that damage. You can probably fix it a lot. Like you can take an old car and rehab it and make it pretty darn nice, a nice enough car to drive around and impress people. There's people who take old cars to shows, right? Think of those as the older people who have great health. That's like the rehabbed old car that looks amazing now. But the older the car gets, and the more damage it has to it, the harder it is and the less likely you'll be able to get it back as close to new. That's the reality. One quote I got from Dan John, I really like Dan John. He's a strength and fitness kind of guy. But he was talking about how important it was to maintain certain physical qualities. Like let's just say being able to go into a deep squat. Just your body, just being able to go into a deep squat. A lot of people can't do that today. Should you be able to do it? Most of the people in the world who are not in the first world, they poop like that 3 times a day. It doesn't ruin your knees. Squats don't ruin your knees. How a person squats ruins their knees. So, he was saying, if you don't maintain this stuff, like just being able to squat all the way down, as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to get it back. It's the same thing. So, don't waste time on this stuff. Hopefully that's why you're watching this video, is because you don't want to waste time on this stuff and you want to fix it. I'm just here to bust the myths of a health industry that looks at humans in mythology and legend and old wives' tales and ideas from gurus, and they just take these things as face value because it was put on the internet. They don't think about it in terms of systems and machinery, and then they hurt themselves, and then they don't know why. Now, Julie, I saw your comment about the car. Here's another car analogy for you. You go into these days, cars are computerized. You go into the mechanic, my car's making this noise, whatever noise you want to make. It's making a noise. Do you know what that is? And the car mechanic will be like, well, they may or may not say anything, but based on what you're telling me, sounds like it could be this. Let's look into it. They need to get under your hood. What do they do now? They run a computer on it. They have a computer that will scan your car. What a lot of people want to do, the DIYers who are listening, they want to just listen to the sound Maybe get the mechanic to say, I think it could be this. Then they take their car home from the mechanics. They don't get it fixed there, and they try to fix it themselves. And then they wonder why their car is not fixing very well. What I do, via the hair testing and a little bit of blood testing. Like when I say little bit of blood testing, like labs through my office are under, the basic ones I need are under $100. So those of you who are used to going and getting hundreds of dollars of blood panels from doctors before you even leave the office, it's not what we're talking about here. The blood helps, but you don't need that much of it to do the work that I do, the nutrition work. But so that's the computer. You run some hair tests. There goes the sun again. You run the hair test. We run the blood test. We have now scanned your car with the computer. Computers told us what's wrong. So now we have the sound. We have the computer scan. And we have the mechanic to fix it professionally and properly. You get further with a mechanic than you usually do taking the car home and fixing it yourself. Or going and scanning YouTube videos to figure out what to do. So, that's, I think, about it. I haven't heard any questions on the hydration stuff, so basically, blood soup. We'll try to sum it up here. You want your blood to be the right concentration of water, sugar, salt. Adding too much of any of these, water, well, especially, so too much water and not enough sugar and salt in your blood will result generally in fatigue and, honestly, quite a lot of symptoms that look a lot like hypothyroid. Low energy, cold hands, cold feet, and then, oh, Maddie, you got to go back and watch the whole start of the video. I hope that's either a joke question or you got to just go back and watch the start of the video. So, too much water, not enough sugar and salt will make your system too diluted, and the symptoms of that tend to look a lot like hypothyroid. Tired, brain fog, cold hands, cold feet, feels like a blood sugar crash. That's what a too diluted soup looks like. Too strong a soup, too thick a soup. Not enough water, too much sugar and salt. That usually people tend to feel at bedtime, where they go to sleep. This is, like I said before, this is not the only thing that can cause this, but they're laying down to go to bed. They can feel like their heart in their chest. Palpitations, the word palpitations really just means you can feel your heartbeat. That's what it means. It doesn't mean super fast or super slow. It's not necessarily about the rhythm. It's about being able to feel it in your chest. So if you feel your heart's like bumping thick, like it's pushing syrup through your veins in your chest, and you're just kind of awake and you're like, wow, I'm more awake than usual, to think about your soup. Either way, think about your soup. How much fluids have I had in the day? That's water. How much salt did I have? And how's my carb situation? What have I eaten for that? Have I had enough? Have I had too much? You know, if you had a really big dinner and then you had like dessert and you hadn't had enough water in the day, that's a situation where you go to bed and be too concentrated. So, Rachel, this video will be on YouTube later. I don't know if I'll be able to get it. Well, your comment about the massage therapist telling you to drink water. No disrespect to massage therapists, but massage therapists are massage therapists. They are far from nutrition experts generally, and most of them are just following the same old kind of cult guru, non-scientific mindset that the internet spews out everywhere. And it's very much group, the whole hydration thing is very much groupthink. People are, you know why people got into the drinking so much water that you pee clear? This is my theory. Laziness, because here's the thing. To avoid not drinking enough, right? So if you wanted to make sure that somebody didn't drink enough, you could have them drink too much. Then at least you know they're not under drinking. So if you said you always want your pee to be clear, guaranteed they're not under drinking. But is that causing problems on the other side? Absolutely. So instead of like, want you to pee light yellow to yellow 4 to 6 times a day, therapists, doctors, nutritionists might think that their clients can't handle that much responsibility. What I do, I assume that people, adults, can handle the responsibility of, maybe for a little while, counting how many times they go pee in a day. Or if they're just kind of going, wow, I've peed like 10 times today. That's not normal. Okay, simple observation. And then you should be looking at your pee and your poop. How else do you know what's going on between your mouth and your butt if you don't look at your pee and your poop? You can think it's gross. That's cool. Doctors could do surgery with black goggles on. It doesn't make it better. If you don't know what is going on in the toilet, you don't know what is going on. I don't know what's going on with my connection today. Anyway, so all those times I'm touching the screen and I need a button that says your live stream has been paused and you need to resume it. So that's why I keep hitting the screen with the little button there. Anyway, you're an adult. If you want to get your health back, you don't need a strict recipe. You need to pay attention to your body and how it responds to various things. And if you have no idea what to do, whether you haven't tried anything and somebody's telling you should come and listen to me, or whether you're one of those people who says, I've tried everything, that's a crock. You have not tried everything, or you wouldn't be here listening to me. So, people think they've tried everything. I'm like, I was into like alternative health when I was like 17, and now I'm 42, and I've been to naturopathic school, and I've had things, and I've tried lots of things, all the way from body talk, energy medicine, to I've had the balloon that goes up your nose and adjusts your sinuses from the inside, to, really intense chiropractic where they were hanging weights on me to pull the curves back into my spine. Like when people come to me and they're like, I've tried everything, I'm like, no, that's cute. No, there's always something else to try. You always have to give something a fair shake if you think it's worth trying. And then you need to find something else. I tell people, when there are people who I have great difficulty with, and I am not getting them where I want them to be, sometimes I'll be like, maybe I don't have the answer for you. Or maybe somebody was working with me and then they go and they try to start doing some emotional work, and that is what they needed. I'm not a mental, emotional, spiritual work guy. That's not what I do. I fix the car. I fix the machinery. If your machinery doesn't work right, your chakras aren't going to work right either, because your chakras are built on physical stuff. We are bags of meat. Spirituality is created by the chemical reactions in here. Funny thing, people like to talk about spirituality and how, well, there's obviously lots of mental, emotional, spiritual problems with the world right now. That would get into electromagnetics, right? I talk about iron dysregulation. Too much iron in the wrong places, not enough iron in the right places. What is the most magnetic mineral known to mankind? Iron. Do you think that too much iron in the wrong places, like up here, might affect your mental, emotional, spiritual stuff? Absolutely. Just like people who have hypoglycemic crashes all the time get really angry. Does that mean it's a spiritual problem? No. It means they can't maintain their blood sugar stability. Very simple. If you've ever had something affect you where it affected your mood and then you fix that problem and your mood goes back to normal, does that mean you have a mental, emotional, spiritual problem? No, you had a chemical problem. That's what I fix. Your soup sucked. Now, back to the soup analogy. Water, sugar, salt. Then there's all the other minerals. Like the seasonings, the herbs and the spices and all the other stuff. Water, think of like there's like chunks of things, meat, vegetables, other things in your soup. And then there's all the seasonings. This chunks of meat and vegetables in water. It's a soup. It's not tasty. It's not incredible. Start adding those herbs and spices and get those right. Then you have magic. That's what I fix. So, I'm not going to get into, Julie, I know you're asking about types of water filtration. The biggest thing I can suggest to people about water filtration, one of the biggest dangers to you is going to be, let's just say, if the stuff hits the fan and you don't have water running in your house, you want a survival water distiller around for your family, because that's what you need to do when the water around you is not good. When things are all nice, reverse osmosis is fine, distillation is fine, some of those crazy like 18-step water purification things are fine. In today's world, is a Berkey fine? A Berkey would be fine for having, that's a Berkey's what I use in my house right now because I haven't gotten around to buying another water filter because I'm thinking about it. But I think the Berkey's pretty okay. It doesn't require electricity. That's a nice thing. People with reverse osmosis systems and other stuff, you don't have power. You don't have clean water. How long can you live without clean water? 2 or 3 days. So if you really, with the world getting as crazy as it is, look up survival. I think it's survivaldistiller.com, survival water distillers. Of all things to have around, that would be the first thing. Maybe a Life Straw, I think it's called, which is a little portable, personal water purifier that campers can use in rivers and streams and other things like that. But just think, if you have a survival water distiller and there's raw sewage floating up in the streets, the only people who are going to be able to drink that water are the people who have a distiller. But yeah, chlorine filters on the shower is generally a nice thing to have. I like Aquasana. They make a good one. I like, for water, like back to that, I would rather air. People love to talk about distilled water is dangerous and reverse osmosis has no minerals in it. I would much rather have overly clean water and get my minerals from food or supplements that I know are clean too, rather than be trying to rely on my water for some amount of minerals that we don't know even exists in there. I have people who get these zinc and copper water filtration systems. get their hair test back, their copper's like off the charts. Is that good? The company said it was good. Who cares? The company might be killing you. I would rather err on the side of overly clean water. Think about this. If you drink your water, I know I said don't drink a ton of water with your meals, but just think about this. When you drink that glass of distilled water, do you actually think, how does nature clean water? It evaporates, sound like distillation. We evaporate it, and then it comes down again. Is not nature's process of cleaning water distillation? Evaporate, condense, come down. The idea that distilled water is somehow dangerous is crazy. My parents heard that when I was a kid, and they said, they'd buy distilled water for the office, for their dental office, and they'd say, don't drink this. It's not for drinking. And it was even back then. If you drink that water and it gets into your system, as soon as it's into your system, it's combined with everything else. It doesn't it's like the distilled water idea. People think it just floats around in your body. And it's like this distilled water bad guy that's going around hurting everything. Like it can stay separate. If you eat food and drink some distilled water at the same time, it's all mixed. Now you have minerals in the water. It's not distilled water anymore. You think the people in Flint, Michigan would have rather been drinking overly clean water or water with lead in it? I know which one I would pick. Here's the thing about all this. We live in a world. We have been part of creating this world that we can't trust things. So somebody mentioned sea salt earlier. I'm going to tell you, sea salt's full of bromine. Sea salt's full of tin. Are all the oceans connected? Therefore, if one part of the ocean gets toxic, will not eventually every other part of the ocean get toxic somewhat? Or are there little oceans that aren't connected to the other oceans? No, they're all intermingling. I would rather have overly clean salt, overly clean water, and not have to put my faith in other people that they're giving me something clean. Because other people are selling things. Fish sellers will tell you that the mercury in fish is not toxic. I got the research showing that the higher the blood mercury levels in people who ate more fish, when they gave them cognitive testing, they had more cognitive deficits in the testing. Mercury from fish is not innocent, but the people selling fish will do their best to tell you that that mercury is okay. Clean water, clean salt. We may get to a point here where we have to start worrying about what's in the air. We probably already do. Look up PM 2.5. PM 2.5 is going up all around the world. Often a major component of PM 2.5 is iron oxide. Iron oxide is also what makes pink salt pink. But pink salt's good for you. No, you're eating rust. Magical, special people in the Himalayas, which is in Pakistan. It's not in Tibet. It's in Pakistan. Now, I'm not saying Pakistan is bad. I'm saying people in this country are fooled by buying. They would not buy Pakistani pink salt if they knew if that was the name versus Himalayan pink salt, because Himalayan pink salt they associate with the Dalai Lama and Tibet. It's a marketing trick. They're selling you salt with rust in it. That's why red rust, white salt, pink salt. Science, look it up on Wikipedia or look it up type in iron oxide or ferric oxide pink salt. That's what it is. You're buying rusted salt. But it's so healthy. Go on PubMed. I get a little worked up about this. Go on PubMed. Look up all the studies on sea salt. You won't find many. I have one that I found. They had rats. It was an Iranian study. Iranian, tomato. The rats they gave this unprocessed sea salt to, by the end of the study, had higher blood pressure. Their blood pressure actually went up. And the rats they gave the normal salt to, their blood pressure didn't go up. I'm guessing the sea salt sellers didn't tell you about that study, and when you go on a sea salt website, look for research. It's not there. They'll make tons of claims. And I bought it for a while. Maybe you're still buying it. When you look at the minerals on sea salt, note how they'll use different analysis techniques. When you look at the analysis, they'll use different analysis techniques. Why are they using different analysis techniques for different minerals? Could it be because they're trying to make something look better than it is? Maybe when they test bromine, it looks less with this technique than if they do it with this technique? Isn't that what businesses do? Is they try to make their product look as good as possible to you? How many Himalayan pink salt websites do you read that tell you that there's iron that makes that salt pink? Not many. You have to protect yourself out there. And that's it. I help to do that because I am sick of all the bullshit that people are being sold. Pardon my French. Don't have the children watch my videos. So, I think that's about it. So, I'm Dr. Garrett Smith. After all we just went over on salt and hydration and soup and concentration and dilution, again, you just think about what I put into all the work I do where I customize stuff for people. And where I give them support to help them figure out what's going on in their system via email. And emails support is part of my program. Anyway, I'm at nutritionrestored.com. Julie's email to contact her if you want to get started. admin@nutritionrestored.com. Our office number, 520-577-6888. I take international clients. Skype is an amazing thing. I can do hair tests for anybody, anywhere. And I take people all over the country. And again, I am a doctor. I'm not your doctor. So anything you decide to do from this little video, that's on you. I'm not telling you to do anything. I just put information out there for people to take with and turn it into hopefully something good. If something doesn't work, don't do that. Doctor, this hurts. Don't do that. I take this supplement. They tell me it's making me detox. I feel like crap. Don't take that supplement. Seems pretty easy, right? I like to use a lot of logic like this. One of the things people like about my approach is that we use logic, and I don't force people to do things that intuitively their body's saying not to do. Remember, intuitively is more than just what you learn on the interwebs. More than what people just tell you on the interwebs. Look for people who make you think. They are trying to improve you as a person, not just people who tell you what to do. Okay? So, Dr. Garrett Smith signing off. Hope you all enjoyed this. It was definitely long enough. Talk to you later.